So it seems that a TikTok ban could be coming, and in fact, it might be closer than we all realize. I want to show you guys some headlines, share my thoughts, and get yours as well. Take a look at headlines here. U.S. probes TikTok Chinese owner for possible spying on reporters. Also, too, Justice Department probes TikTok's tracking of U.S. journalists, and we're looking at the FBI is looking into this thing, and also, too, the criminal branch of the DOJ. Now, one of the things that was really interesting, we're talking about, say, reporters, is basically the Chinese government, if there are indeed tracking reporters, and honestly, when I read these things, I feel like, yeah, they probably are. You're basically figuring out, okay, who is talking to who? And there's a ton of sensitive information regarding this, be it, government officials from any country talking to reporters, be it business people, right, business insiders talking to reporters, or be it financial markets, say, talking to reporters. There's all kind of things that happen when you're talking about sensitive information like this. And kind of the crux of, this is all about, essentially, to be really frank, is if we live in China, they want to control all the media. They want to control flow of information. And another thing that they do, this is real, is silence journalism. And this is something that I think is so important to keep open and free, is the ability for literally people to talk. If you have, tight-lipped control over everything, is a real problem. So this whole TikTok ban, like I said, is much larger than we actually realized. It's much bigger than I was even thinking. But now that I put it all together and just seeing what the reports coming out, this actually could be a real thing. The ban could be coming. Let's take a look at some more of the headlines. So this is a one where China's trying to fight back and saying, China appeals for fair treatment after latest TikTok bans. And they're talking about Britain, New Zealand, the US. And it's interesting because when I was first thinking about TikTok, when I heard about being banned, I was thinking, well, full disclosure, I don't like TikTok. I just think it's mostly dumb content and just frankly makes us all dumb. But that doesn't necessarily make it illegal. Maybe dangerous. You could argue that. But frankly, I think it's just a dumb platform. True story. I was looking at this. This is over on my TikTok. The first thing that came up, true story, was people were dumping ice cubes in their toilet. It really literally is potty humor. And it's like, oh my God, what stupid things on TikTok. I was just curious to show you the demo. And that's what it was. And you may or may not know this, but TikTok in China is actually really different. It's called Douyin. This is the brand right there. But essentially what it is, it's very commercialized. It's pretty similar to YouTube, where it has all kinds of content on there, right? Not just dancing, but like I said, closer to YouTube. However, one of the big differences in TikTok is it's way more commercialized in terms of like TV shows. There's a bunch of stars and things like this, and it's heavily scrubbed. This is something that they do over in China on social media. They basically scrub anything that could be damaging to powerful people, damaging to the government, damaging to, businesses that want to essentially control people's information on them. This any number of things. And one of the things that too is that, as I mentioned, it was a few governments, not just the USA, is talking about this. You look at Canada's banning TikTok and government devices. You're looking at the UK is doing the same thing. You guys can see this here. And it is even New Zealand, as I already mentioned, and even France is looking at it. It's multiple countries involved. And this is not just like a one-day thing where like, oh my God, we wake up and we start doing it. I guess we've been talking about this. You can see here the headlines. Leaked audio from 80 internal TikTok meetings shows that U.S. user data has been repeatedly accessed from China. And this was dated on June 18th, 2022. So this has actually been a long-running thing. I think, it's more coming to a head to where the U.S. government is spending more resources, like I said, having the FBI look into it. And unfortunately, I feel like this is sort of has to be done. I don't know how else to say it, because I just want to tell you guys a story. I used to teach at Tsinghua University, which is the top school in China. It's where the current president, President Xi, and the one before, Hu Jintao, and several Chinese presidents, I went to university. It's the top school in China. I used to teach there. And this is also a true story. I was followed by the Chinese secret police. That's essentially the reason why I left. It was just really, really uncomfortable. And if you're kind of curious, what's it like to be followed by the secret police? So basically, things that I do, I go out to dinner, I go on a date, any number of things, and there'll be like this old, average-looking, middle-aged Chinese person, usually a guy, and they would just always be standing like maybe 10, 15 feet away and just kind of listening into your conversations. And this would be a regular thing. And it was just, frankly, not cool. And this is just something that happens quite a bit in China, is that they'll put surveillance on people that are a little bit nervous of stuff like this. And again, I was at a high-profile university. I was very, very popular there, and frankly, someone of interest. Now, I was like, you know what? I'm getting out. I just don't want to deal with that stuff. And it's funny, when I tell these guys the story, you're probably like, what the heck's he talking about? But at the time when I was at university, it's like something all my friends were talking about all the time, because they're just like, is this really happening? Is this really happening? And then when it happens over and over again, you're like, oh my God, it really is real. Because it just doesn't feel real. And when you read about, say, Chinese TikTok tracking journalists, I can totally see that. I can totally see, like, for example, let's say there's a big scandal where maybe the Chinese government made just for example, the regulations that were weak on a particular company, and that particular company was, has poisonous baby food, stuff like that. There's always some sort of scandal like that in China. This is real. And it turns out that there's cardboard particles in baby food. And that's a massive scandal. And then it turns out too that that particular company may have a connection to a particular Chinese official who might have weakened regulations, or maybe, is profiting off, poison baby food, this kind of stuff. And it's a massive scandal. And then what they would do is they would track which, reporters are talking to which employees and these kind of things. I'm just giving you one example. There's any number of things you could, if you want to talk about military weapons, maybe it turns out that there's a certain company that's selling, radar to whatever country, and China's like, okay, I want to figure out what's going on with that. I just came with a couple examples quickly, but the idea though is who is talking to who. Maybe government officials are meeting other government officials. You're trying to do all the number of things. So I can totally see why basically governments around the world are like, you know what? I want no government, phones being able to be tracked by TikTok. So please delete those apps off, or not please, you're doing it, right? Just essentially ban it. Moreover, the question would be like, how widespread is this? Is it just reporters? Is it just government officials? Is it all U.S. citizens? Like, what's going on? And the other thing too, I was thinking about why you would do say all U.S. citizens is like, okay, so let's say you ban it on the government phone, but then you figure out which kids are in what person's family, and you start tracking their kids and you start figuring out where they are. It's like, I know what I'm saying is so ridiculous, but this is what it is. And that's why I bring up my own personal experience at Tsinghua University. This stuff, unfortunately, is real. And one of the biggest complaints of living in China, and this is just talking with students and Chinese friends, is frankly freedom of speech and freedom of essentially have a free press. Journalism is part of that. And so I am all on board. Unfortunately, you have to be with banning TikTok and these kind of things. And I know you don't necessarily want a battle between countries banning each other's companies, but this is also real. YouTube in China, Twitter in China, social media in China is not a thing. They essentially effectively ban our companies. So we're banning their companies for a different reason, but I think unfortunately it probably has to be done. I don't want U.S.-China relations to go sour like this, but this is the reality. The Chinese Communist Party isn't a good entity. It's not. And I've said that several times. I'll say it several times again. And when I'm reading that they're tracking U.S. journalists, I can see there's a real problem with that. So this is my thoughts on this. I want to hear your thoughts as well. And also too, is there any other scenarios that say location tracking or acquiring U.S. data that I missed, I didn't mention, that would also be highly sensitive and also give reason for a ban? If you disagree with the ban of TikTok, I want to hear some reasons why not. So I think it's an interesting issue. This is way more than just people dancing or dumping down ice cubes down the toilet. So that's what it is. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I want to hear your thoughts, and I'll catch you in the next video.